Hey guys, this is Eve. Thanks for tuning into my YouTube channel. This channel is dedicated to exploring various topics of the metaphysics and looking at them from a very occult, symbolic, esoteric point of view. I really look at a lot of doctrines and also I would say just practices that we observe in the New Age and the conscious, movement. And I expose a lot of them as being, if not most of them, as being something that's downright lies. And they are, things that actually are counterproductive and harmful actually to consciousness. Okay, so this video I'm going to talk about the Roman Catholic Church. I'm going to talk about the Roman Catholic Church, its significance to all churches, all right, all denominations, and also what the occult meanings for crucifixion, and also what the cross really means, okay? What the cross really means, and the relation that it has to sexual perversion and exploiting what you would call the sacral chakra, or the sacral aspect of human beings, in the root chakra, okay? So there's going to be a lot of things that are kind of trying to connect here. So, just bear with me. Whenever you're actually trying to deliver information from the third eye, it's not very linear. So, our minds are very linear. We've been trained to actually, I guess what you would say, digest information in patterns. Okay. But, the way that the third eye works is that it disseminates all the information that you've had throughout your incarnation, and it puts it all together into a revelation. And so it's kind of like I have to kind of give you pieces, if you will, of a puzzle, in order for you to be able to digest it in a holy type of way, if that makes sense. Okay, so I really want to talk about sexual perversion in the Roman Catholic Church, okay? Now, the thing is that, the religions that we have, most, if not all the religions that we have, suppress the sacral and the root chakra, okay? Now, this means that really when you are diminishing your root chakra, okay, your sacral chakra, those are your earthly chakras. And so you are actually taking away your divinity. You are taking away, I shouldn't say you are, but they are. They are taking away your divinity. They are taking away what actually, in fact, makes you human, okay? Because, whenever you look at, the Catholic Church and you see how Jesus is crucified with a crown of thorns, he's crucified with a crown of thorns because his consciousness is very imbalanced, has gone from his root and his sacral all the way up to the crown chakra. And so this is an imbalance in consciousness. That's why, like, when we observe holidays that are very sadistic, Christmas or what have you, and how Santa Claus is associated with Satan. If you rearrange the letters for Santa, it's Satan. And so, that goes to show that, and knowing that Santa lives in the North Pole is referring to your crown, okay? Whereas your South Pole is your root chakra. So, everything is made to pervert the root and the sacral, all right? So you can ascend up to the to the crown chakra, where you are crucified. Like in the Bible, it talks about how Jesus is crucified in Golgotha, the place of the skull. So this is Godhead. So basically, Jesus is your sacral, okay? Now, when you look at the occult meaning for Jesus, it's your soul, your solar plexus. That's why Jesus in the Bible, allegorically, is called the Son of God, okay? The sun is solar plexus, okay? And so that's why oftentimes when you see Jesus, his heart is in chains. His heart is, his heart is in chains, and so if you look up the explanation of the solar plexus is responsible for your heart, which is your desire, your will, okay? And so, like, when people draw up a will, right, they are actually, giving away their assets, okay? And so here, the Roman Catholic Church actually has designed a system, all right, that basically has people give up their money and give up their will, okay? Give up their creativity, give up, willing things into existence and manifesting the physical, and relying on a system to do it. And so whenever you are, perverting the root and the sacral chakra, you are going to be susceptible to judgment. All right. You're going to be susceptible to judgment when you die. Okay. Because you're not bringing, I guess, what you would call heaven to earth, so to speak. In the All Father prayer, it says, on earth as it is in heaven. So heaven is the mind. Earth is the body, right? So most people who walk around the matrix today, they have lots of dreams and hopes and aspirations, but they can't manifest it. They can't manifest those things into physical reality. And so this creates what you would call an astral self, or a subconscious mind, or whatever you want to call it, a devil, which is the veil of the ego. And so you go to sleep tonight. You go to sleep at night. I guess that's like a Freudian slip, right? Tonight I'm going to go to sleep to my astral, crazy, wild self. But because you're suppressed within the system as an ego, and you can't manifest everything that you want because the higher self is controlling your resources, so it orchestrates and puppeteers you the higher self is like a master. It puppeteers you to do what it wants you to do so it can have its treasures in heaven, and not you, the ego, have the treasures. Okay? So, it's very important to know that the system that Rome has in place, especially as it pertains to religion, it is designed to create this astral aspect of yourself so you don't gain realization of God within the physical. So there's no on earth as it is in heaven. It's just, you don't get anything on earth, and you have to wait to die and go to heaven to get your treasures. All right, which is the astral self that you go to sleep to every night. And eventually when you actually die, you go to the astral realm or heaven to await reincarnation. Okay. And so the way that they do this is really through celibacy. They actually advocate celibacy. And the thing is that we are not, human thinkers. We're human beings. And so we have bodies. And so, if you think about, animals or whatever the case is, animals, they don't have to, do a lot of psychological things to have sex. Like if you think about human beings, we're the only species that, has to do things like foreplay, and, we have to, buy like lingerie and stuff like that, and watch pornos and stuff like that. We do a lot of things to get ready for sex. And actually, it's a very ritualistic thing for humans. When it comes to animals, they just have sex in, it's just normal. It's not something that they put a whole lot of stock in. They gather their food and stuff like that, and when they have sex, and then it's over, and then they move on to other things. But human beings, sex is a very, I guess what you would say, important thing as it pertains to human beings, okay? And it has to do with the fact of Rome, because Rome always takes the inheritance and imbalances the root in the sacral chakra. Jesus is the Son of God, your sacral, okay? And this is where, for women, where your, we carry our babies, and this is where the sexual organs are. So every time that they pervert this with restriction, it causes an imbalance, okay? It causes a perversion. And so that's why, when you see a lot of times like devout and people who are really heavily in the church, they are sexual perverts. Like Pope Francis, I think they said he took a long time in coming out about, the molestations and things like that of children in the Roman Catholic Church. And the reason why he did that was because, really, to be honest with you, it is something that is known, and it's actually, the environment is facilitated for them to actually molest little children. It's very sick. It's very sad. But really, that's what it is. Because whenever you are, I guess, perverting the nature and really subduing the nature, it makes the person turn into, it makes them obsessed about sex. It's like an obsession. So it's like, you know, when you're a person who works for the Roman Catholic Church and you're interacting with little boys, then that nature is going to manifest in raping and molesting little children, because the sacral and the root is suppressed, and so they purposely do that. And so the thing is that, you know, whenever we experience those suppressions, they manifest themselves into, you know, not just sexual perversion, but it also can be violence as well. And so the person that's holding the bag is not what you would say are these, you know, the people who created these institutions, right? It's not the Roman Catholic Church. They're pointing fingers and saying, oh, well, you know, we feel sorry or whatever for the family and what have you, but really they are the problem. Because you know, I mean, these priests and so forth, they can't have sex, and sex is a part of being on the physical plane. Sorry to say, but really it is what it is, something that's a part of human existence. Okay, so when you're, you know, telling people to be prudish and not have sex and to, you know, be you know, super duper all about your virtues and that type of thing, it creates nastiness and filthiness. But that's done because the astral body, the astral aspect of you, is in bed with the Roman Catholic Church and what you would call the Illuminati. So when you go to sleep at night, you have a contract with the Roman Catholic Church. You have a contract with the elite that actually run this hellhole for Jews. And so with that, you the ego is being used as a slave, okay? And actually suppressed in the physical, so you can manifest into filthy, nasty disgustingness, if you will, on the astral realm. Okay, so you become a devil. And so, you know, you can't really restrict this aspect, if you will, of a human being and not expect it to come out in a way that creates judgment. So they purposely create judgment for you. You know, they facilitate an environment. They make you suppress your, you know, your chi, whatever, your life force, whatever the case is. And also too, they make you obsess about it at the same time. And so it's like, you know, whenever you're not living in balance as it pertains to sex, it's going to affect you. And so this is really how you get the kundalini to rise, because you know, the kundalini or whatever starts out at the base of your spine, right? It starts out at the root chakra or what have you, and it goes all the way up until it reaches your crown. And the only way that it can reach your crown is through celibacy. That's the only way that you can actually, raise the kundalini past the sex chakras. And actually it manifests itself into connection with the higher self. And since the higher self is actually in bed with the Roman Catholic Church and the Illuminati and the elite, well, it's curtains for you. That's why you get a crown of thorns, okay? Instead of a crown of glory. Because the whole purpose is to destroy you, and to bring judgment. And so the Roman Catholic Church is responsible for exorcisms. They are responsible for actually cultivating demons within the consciousness of human beings, to reap the loosh and to reap the, I guess what you would say, suffering that comes from that. Okay? Like, for example, a lot of times devout, they, what is that? Like, they experience stigmata. Like, have you heard about the crucifixion of Christ and the different, you know, I don't know, like the different wounds that he gets, right? Well, those things actually don't happen to people who are normally just regular people. They happen to people who are devout, who suppress the sexual nature, and whose kundalini has actually risen to the crown chakra. And so the reason why the body starts to afflict them is because the root and the sacral chakra is out of whack. And so because the kundalini has risen so far up into the Godhead, right? Then they start to become afflicted with these different wounds, okay? The body is like, you know what? If you're not going to gratify me, then I'm going to inflict harm upon you. And so they purposely do this. And so when I was, when I went to Sunday school and I went to church, and the type of mother that I was given, right, and blessed with, I was always taught that sex was dirty. I was always taught that, I should not embrace my sexual nature, and so forth. Although my own mother, actually took me to be molested, actually, most weekends, actually. She took me to be molested. And, because of being connected to a secret society. All right. So she got paid money to actually, to have this done. Okay. So, the fact that, I was given this mother to actually, suppress my sexual nature at the same time, and to, actually make it ascend up to the Godhead, to where I have access to knowledge that's connected to my higher self. But knowing that the higher self is actually connected to, to Rome, so to speak, it's definitely, been an issue. It's definitely a problem. And, they purposely do this. And so people who are devout, people who have sexual, suppression and repression, they are the ones who actually, are crucified, because they go from their root, right, and their sacral, which is your inheritance. That's why they call the root chakra is called the Mula Dahara. Mula means money. Mula means money. And so that's why people say, oh, I need some mula. They mean money. And so really having, a good root chakra is your money. But the Roman Catholic Church, they actually take that money by suppressing the sexual nature into where they pervert it, and they make you very psychological. One, example I like to talk about a lot is the family, what is it called? The Duggars, right? The Duggars are a prime example of what sexual perversion looks like. And you're like, the Duggars, they're so nice and wholesome. No. There was if you're not familiar with the Duggars, they are the family with that TV show, the reality show. They don't have it anymore, but it's called 19 Kids and Counting. And they're very psycho. They're a very psychological family. All the members of the family, their names start with the letter J. And the thing is that they're always quick to get married at a certain age, because they have sexual needs that they've suppressed. And they've suppressed a lot as it pertains to the physical, the way that they dress, and so forth. It kind of reminds you of like Puritan or Quakers or whatever the case is. That type of society, I guess Mormon society, whatever the case is. And so, one of the boys in the family, he was actually molesting a lot of the girls and stuff like that. And so, when you see people who are so supposedly wholesome and they have these nasty, perversions or whatever in the family, these things are done. The suppression of the sexual creates these perversions, okay? And then you wind up with judgment. And so the whole idea behind, oh, we're wholesome, we save ourselves till marriage, and we dress very prudently, and we're very prudent and so forth, and we live for God and we love God and so forth like that. When you're conditioning people to be like that, you're not honoring the totality of who they are. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't honor God, because you should honor the higher aspect of yourself. But there's also a lower aspect of yourself as well that should be honored. And when that is not honored, you are imbalanced. And so you will be brought to judgment, because, your consciousness will want to gratify itself. And oftentimes, because it's such a suppression, it'll actually overcompensate, to gratify itself. And so you might be, the head of a, I don't know, like a Sunday school or something like that. But, you're partaking in all of these different things like S&M and, golden showers and stuff like that. You're doing all this sexual perversion. And the reason why you're doing this sexual perversion is because of the fact that your sexual nature has risen to the psyche or the mind. It's not in the root anymore. Like one of the gurus I used to follow, that I still follow actually, his name is Sadhguru, and he talks about once you've actually put sex into the mind, you've perverted it. And that's all that we do. We put sex into the mind. Everything's about sex. Everything is about the psychological aspect and getting prepared for sex and so forth, and different things. Even the act of like putting on a condom, right? Because we've been told that STDs are real, right? Well, in heaven, STDs are not real, okay? At the physical level, STDs are real, okay? But in heaven, they aren't. And so everything starts in heaven. So as above, so below. And so, to be honest with you, STDs should not be existing at the physical level. Let me just kind of put that out there. And I'm getting really, esoteric here, but I mean, really, to be honest with you, it's like, these STDs and things like that, it's not something that's supposed to exist. All right. So, as it pertains to, sexual perversions and stuff like that, these sexual perversions only actually start because of the mind. Because of, the intellect. And so when you have to stop the sexual act to say, let me go ahead and put a condom on, that's psychological, that's psycho. I'm thinking about an STD. And so if you even have to think about an STD, right, because really putting on a condom makes you think about an STD, right? So, it's like, are you really having sex in its true nature, or are you having some type of what you would call quote unquote alien sex, to be honest with you? You know what I mean? It's not something that's sacred. It's something that's psychological. You have to think about sex. You have to go buy condoms. You have to go buy lubricants. You have to buy, things for sexual health and stuff like that. Oh, I could get pregnant. Let me go take a plan B. I mean, it's just so many different things that's in terms of sex being tied to the psyche. And since it's in the thinking mind and it's not so much really in your loins anymore, it's not in your root chakra or your sacral chakra, right? You're not going to be able to have sex in the way that it should be done, okay? And so this actually all comes from the perversion of sex, and it comes from the perversion of sex in the Roman Catholic Church and how sex is suppressed. And how, that leads to what you would call crucifixion. And so that's how we get into stigmata, and we get into eventually when you actually give up the body, because when you give up the body, it goes to show that your sexual nature has been perverted. And that's one of the main ways that they actually target you to be crucified. Okay, that's how they target you to be crucified. So excuse me. So, it's very sad, or what have you, how the Roman Catholic Church, which is basically the head honcho above all other churches, have a system of perverting the sexual nature, so you can be crucified to where your lower self meets your higher self, right? Or you go from your lower self to your higher self, and you get a crown of thorns. And so you become super psychological, you just become perverted. And so they get loose, or they get what you would call high off of creating suffering for people. It's very sick, and it's very sad. It's like, you think about the stuff that the Roman Catholic Church does, like communion, when you eat the body and you drink the blood, think about that. That's very vampiric. That's a vampire, why would you be eating someone's flesh and drinking someone's blood? And so, growing up, you think these things are normal because, you're taught, you're taken to church, your parents take you to church, and, you're like, oh, this is just something that we do. You're conditioned and bathed in that. But when you see that, your flesh is being, the flesh is eaten in the, you're drinking someone's blood, you're doing a ritual that's symbolic of that. The reason why they do that is because by the end of your incarnation, they actually create suffering, okay? And that's tied to your sexual nature. Your kundalini is tied to your chi, your life force, so whatever the case is, And so when you become afflicted, and you get access to higher dimensions like the 4th, 5th, 6th, or whatever it is dimension, when you're gaining access to those dimensions within the physical, you will be afflicted. Believe me, I know. And so they get a good tasty meal off of seeing you suffer. And that's why in the Christian religion, there's so much, there's so much on the suffering of Jesus. you know, and his blood and being washed in his blood and that type of thing. It's very disgusting. But, you know, we're taken to church to think of these things as being regular and normal when they're not. It's actually quite evil and sadistic. And so the Roman Catholic Church is responsible for creating demons within people. You know, of these, you know, it's, I don't know. It's just crazy, and it's not right. But, you know, it's something that needs to be put out there. They need to be put, you know, on blast about basically what they're doing to people, and how they've suppressed the sexual nature of their priests and so forth, and how that's manifest into nastiness and disgustingness. And they blame the people of their organization, but they facilitated an environment that created it. So, you know, we're human beings, we're not human thinkers. And so we need to be able to embrace the body as well as the mind. But when you're just embracing the mind and not the body, then you will be brought to judgment and you will be crucified in Golgotha. Okay? So that's pretty much, you know, a video about, you know, the perversion of the sexual nature of the Catholic Church, you know, how that relates to crucifixion, stigmata, where you will start to not just be afflicted, you know, mentally and emotionally, but you're also going to be afflicted physically. And so they get off on this type of suffering, and it's a vampiric religion, and the people who actually, you know, are a part of this religion are really sadistic and disgusting, and they need to be brought to judgment by God. Okay? So, guys, thanks for watching, you know, my video, and I'll see you in my next.